I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host this morning. This morning, we're looking at Sage 50 accounts, continuing with our customers theme that we've been running throughout July and August. We're looking at the age debtors reports today. There's a number of different areas in the software where you'll see the age debtors and aging the outstanding balances. So we'll be running through those just to give you a better idea about that area. Session is booked in for about half an hour, plenty to get through. We'll try and pick up your questions along the way as well. This is our agenda for this morning's session though, so it looks like quite a bit to get through. There is, but hopefully it's quite a simple topic, the age debtors. So brief introduction, we'll look at the age balances, setting your aging periods. We'll look at the reports themselves. Probably the key part and the bit that catches people out is retrospective reporting. So how can you see what was outstanding at a point in time, possibly looking back at a month-end point, or maybe you've gone into your new financial year and you're thinking, right, I'm ready to run that year end now. What was outstanding as at that year end date? So really easy with the little tick box you provided with on the aged reports. But a couple of things to watch out for when you do that as well. Make sure you've got nothing hidden and you've got all accounts available, that type of thing. Pick up on some of the common queries, and then just at the end, we'll just mention a little bit about the additional support and also the Q&A. Simon, you mentioned you're looking forward to being a nominal ledger king. Yeah, no badge, unfortunately, but yeah, hopefully we'll get you up to speed with the nominal ledger side of things. So we'll try to cover all aspects of that. Obviously, some of them do overlap into the other ledgers as well, things like inactive records and things like that. So a little bit of repetition, sort of, but we'll be concentrating on things like the nominal record side of inactive records. Anyway, let's get stuck into today's session. So a little bit of an introduction to obviously the age debtors. So obviously if you offer credit to your customers, which most of you probably will, hence you're on the Sage 50 level of the software. So if you offer credit to your customers, obviously the idea is, and ideally the main aim is to ensure you get paid, and also that you get paid on time. And to help you do that, it's worthwhile with the age debtors. It helps you to understand who owes you money, how much, and obviously how old that is for. One thing the age debtors doesn't do, and it's something to bear in mind as well, it doesn't concentrate on due dates. There are other approaches you can take for that, including, if anyone's using it, Sage Copilot concentrates on due date as opposed to how long things have been outstanding for. So there's two different approaches on that one. So you might have a debt that's been outstanding for quite some time, but actually it's irrelevant if it's still within the credit terms agreed. So it depends which way you want to approach that. Now, customer's ledger, as far as that customer's ledger is concerned, and picking up on that, is it due, is it not? The standard customer's ledger, it only shows you the balance and the credit limit. So just quickly sharing my screen there. See quickly, it sometimes takes a few, seems like an eternity to share a screen these days. But anyway, if I pop into customers, the standard customer screen, the only thing that it shows me really with regard to debtors is obviously we see who they are, but it shows me the balance, what's outstanding, shows me the credit limit. I haven't actually got any set up on this set of data, but it just shows me that balance. Now, looking at that, I can't see how long things have been outstanding for, or the due date for that matter. I can't see that. All I see is, right, this is what the customer owes you. So it might be that all of these invoices might have just been raised today, the last few days. They might have even been future dated and they've been popped on there. So I don't know from this who I should start chasing. Now, there are other options when you're looking at this. Laura's going to be going into the chase debt view. Can't remember, I think she might have already covered that. But you've got this chase debt view if you're on the standard or the professional level. So it's a good way of, if I just flick across to that, it's a slightly different view. So it'll give you not only the balance, but it gives you also what's overdue. So if you are on the standard level or the professional level, probably I would say this is probably the preferred view for looking at your customers list. Just that little toggle option at the top there. And that's user specific as well. So, if you're working with colleagues and one likes chase debt view, one likes standard view, you're not going to be fighting a battle constantly changing that. So we'll just go back to that standard view. So that as you say, that customer list there doesn't give me a lot. Just really, it's just the outstanding balance. So we're going to start exploring the aged debtors. So how long has the balance been outstanding for? Now, as far as the age balance is concerned, if I just go back to my slides for a moment, you've got a number of different areas where you can view the age balances. So say again, looking at the balance and how long it's been outstanding for. So a number of different areas. You've got it within the customer activity window. It's along the bottom. So it doesn't just list the transactions. You've got your either your sort of your date periods, and it'll show you what sort of period the outstanding balance falls into, and it splits it. We'll come on to those age periods in a moment. You can get into that obviously via the customer record. And then activity, again, shows you the same thing as the top option. You've got the customer's age debt option, which is on your toolbar. Similarly, you've got the reporting options as well. Loads of age debtors reports available. They will vary depending on the level of software you're on. And of course, you've got the chase debt view, the aged columns, which isn't available in Essentials. I'll just quickly show you those just to give you an idea of what we're talking about today. And then we'll go into them in a little bit more in depth. So quickly back to my screen. So if we just go into, first of all, the activity on the toolbar at the top and the age balances. If I call up a customer's account, that would probably help. The age balances is this bit at the bottom. So it gives you an idea what sort of period the outstanding balances for each customer falls into. So this is specific to a customer, this one as well. Obviously switch to another account. Is there anything on this one? And again, you can see in this case, it's 60 days. We'll come on to setting those periods in a few moments. You've got your age debt option on the toolbar at the top. So initially it gives you this view. Don't know if this is widely used, this option. Never hear really anyone mention it these days. But again, it's based around the customers that you've got highlighted. As I didn't have anything highlighted, it lists them all. So again, you've got things like your basic sort of, almost like your sort of the same information from your customer screen, except this time it falls into the aging period. So if you want to see more information on it, you can either highlight a customer and then click detailed view. Gives you the breakdown of the transactions, etc. There is only one on this account. Or you can just double click it. If you double click it, it does the same thing. It brings it up. And of course, you've got there, and I think this is even less used, this one. You've got the graph option as well. If anyone uses the graph options in Sage 50, let me know. I think most people, if you're going to use graphs, they tend to send them to Excel and generate them that way. It's not very widely used, the graphing options. And then, of course, that final option that we mentioned as well, obviously reports that we're going to concentrate on, but the final option that we mentioned was chase debt. Now, when you first look at chase debts, and again, Laura goes through this in a lot more detail than what I'm about to cover. Again, it just shows me at this stage that we've got the balance. The additional option here is you've got the overdue balance as well. You can actually change that as well, so you can bring in things like it sets some criteria at the top to say, right, I want to see what's due in the next X number of days as well. So you can increase that overdue balance. So the period that it looks at means that you can get ahead of the game. You're not having to drill down and run reports to see what's approaching that. Now, age balance wise, the beauty of the chase debt view is that you can right click any of your column headings. You're probably aware of this one. I think we've mentioned it enough now. And in here, you can actually switch on the aged columns. So I can switch on age current and in this case, age 30. I'll just quickly switch them all on. Might be some columns you want to switch off, things like payment methods. Just right click and again from the list, choose what you want to show and what you don't. Rid of a few more. Get rid of that follow-up as well. So what we've now got, we've got it similar to that age debt where we looked at earlier. You've got you've got the relevant information in there now, and it means that just going into customers, you've got that information readily available. If you're sitting this all day long, you can always just click refresh, and if any additional transactions, any transactions that are downloaded automatically, posted against the customer, etc. Or if you use things like Sage Pay or invoice payments, that information potentially downloads automatically and matches against transactions, etc. So it just means refreshing, it will reload the window. Again, rather than click refresh, of course, you can just close that window, re-access it, does the same thing. Anyway, those are the age balance where you can view age balances. If I pop back to the, in fact, I'll just stay on this screen. So if we go to settings at the top, and then customer defaults, and you've got the aging/due date column at the top, tab at the top. So this is where you can set your aged periods. Now, if anyone's using a slightly older version, you might just find this one's called aging at the top rather than being called aging/due date. Changed on, off the top of my head, I think it was version 28.1. I think it is. So been around for a while now. So if you're on a fairly recent version, bear in mind we're up to version 34 now. So version 28, you're looking at about sort of 6-7 years old now. I would expect you probably be on a more up-to-date version than that. But sometimes people aren't because they integrate with certain add-ons. So you might still be hanging around on an older version. Anyway, what we've now got, we've got this aging, essentially the aging tab at the top. And the two key options on here are calendar monthly aging and period aging. Now, period aging is set by default as these sort of periods. So when you're looking at your age debtors report, so the various screens that you're on, so we just display that one in the background there. The aged current is basically anything in the current period. So it's going to be anything from essentially zero days. So if you just raise it today and date it today, and it would appear in that age current. So with this setting, anything sort of from today all the way 29 days back over, anything that falls into that period would be your aged current. Age 30 would be anything that's outstanding that is dated, so it falls within the 30 to 59 days old. Then you've got 60 to 89, 90 to 119, and then 120 days or older. You can change that if you want, based around your credit terms. If you wanted to do, let's say you offer 7 days credits, you can do that. Then you can do 14 days. So it's entirely up to you what you want to see in that. And it would just when I click OK, I'll do that now. I'll refresh that window. Hasn't refreshed the titles there, I notice. I'll have a look at that one. But it will reload. Let's see if it reloads when I go back into that window. No, it has now. Just needed to fully refresh. So it's picked up those titles now, and the relevant balances will just fall into the relevant period. So you can change that if you want to. But by default, if we go back to that screen, aging, you will find it set to sort of 30, 60, 90. I just set them back. The other one to think about is calendar monthly aging. This was introduced, I remember when this was introduced, because it used to confuse a lot of people, and still does, when you're set to period aging, that you think, well, actually there's 31 days in a month. There's not always 31 days in a month. So sometimes what you'll find is that If you're running your age debtors at the end of, let's say, July, where there is 31 days, anything on the 1st of July would actually fall into period aging 1, as opposed to in the current period. So you can get a little bit of confusion as to what's outstanding when. So this calendar monthly aging option, I always think that's a little bit easier to use. So that will look at, right, if I was to set it to that and just OK that, just close out again, come back into it. So when you're looking at your aging periods, obviously the titles change again. So age current would be the current month that you're in. So August in this case. 1 month would be anything that's outstanding that's dated in July. Then you've got June, then May. I couldn't think of the month that comes before June now. So May, and then fortunately April. So April and everything prior to that. And it just makes it a little bit easier when you've got transactions which are sort of outstanding on the extremes of the month as to what period they fall into. So you can play around with those if you are interested. Now, obviously, those aging periods, they impact on all the other areas as well. So when we're looking at the activity, that bottom box, the age debtors, this option at the top, you're looking at reports, or you're just looking at the likes of the chase debt window, it will feed through into that. But let's pick up on reports next. So if we pop into reports, and when you think of age debtors, you always think about the age debtors folder and the various reports that are there. Now there's loads of reports in here. Used to be, when I started at Sage, there were actually 3. Been here a long time. So there was a contacts, a summary, and a detailed. That will show you different levels of information. So actually, just let me make sure I've got no one highlighted. I don't. That's great. We've got age debtors, which is concentrate on the contacts one first of all. If we run that reports, and it's just going to give you like it's all to do with different levels of information. So if I just OK that, we'll come back to specifying dates and stuff in a moment. So if we have a quick look at this one, I'll zoom in to give you a standard chance of seeing the information of what's included. So this one, we've got very, very basic information here. We've got the account reference, the name, and then you've got that sort of aging period there. So it doesn't give you any transactional detail, just says, right, these are the periods that the customer has an outstanding balance when it falls into. Your next level up would be your summary. Just preview that one. Pretty much the same information. The contacts one, if I did have it entered, it would have shown you things like phone numbers and things like that. But I always think if you're going to contact a customer and chase payment, you need the detail. So again, this is just top level information. This one doesn't really give you much, this A1C, this A1 customer, you can see it's got a balance of £100, and that's falling in period 3 in this instance. Well, it doesn't give me any detail. If I'm chasing a customer, I need that information. I need that level of information. And that's where the detailed one comes in. So we have a look at that one. And this is where you're going to get a lot more information in here. So you would have the sort of account reference, the name of the customer, the contact name if you'd entered one, telephone number as well, and then you've got actual transaction information this time. Now you might just prefer to work from like the age debtors icon on your toolbar, or you might just want to go into their account so you've got easy access to other information as well. But this is where you would have the detail. Find one. So this one, we've got an SI and an SC. I'm going to come on to this one a little bit later on when we start looking at the information in a bit more detail. But again, you can see we've got a lot more information on this one. including obviously the transactional information itself. So you got the number, you can always go back into your accounts, etc. You got the reference as well. So usually the invoice number generally refers to your invoicing and credits ledger. Might not do, but I would say 99.9% of instances it would do, because you can change that if needed. So those are your key age debtors report. You've got the things like the drillable ones as well. Drillable, if I just find it, there we go. Just okay that one. And you've got it where it looks like this. Now, some of you might be familiar with drillable reports, where you've got the your management reports. So it just means when you click something, it means that you can drill down. So I click onto that A1 customer, it'll drill down next, show me the detail. See all the detail of their transactions. Simon, you were mentioning there, you presume it changes on a day-to-day basis. So if you run on 2nd of August, it will classify the 1st of July in period 2, not period 1. Absolutely. And that's the bit that catches people out. So, if you were to run it at let's say the 31st of July, in the current period, if you were with period aging, so 0 to 29, you're going to see essentially, well, what's that going to take me back to? Try and do the maths there. That's going to take me back to the 2nd in the current period. And then anything that was dated the 1st, for instance, would go into period 1. And that's one of the reasons people tend to find that they migrate towards that calendar monthly aging. Much easier to understand, and it correlates a little bit better than to things like when you're running things like trial balances and things like that. Now remember, you can, because there's so many reports available, if there's any that you do run regularly, you can always flag them as a favorite. So just click on the little star at the beginning, and all it does is when you first come into your reports, if there's anything flagged as a favorite, it will default to that. Just bear with me one moment there, please. Sorry about that. Badly prepared, and my headset's just telling me in my other ear that the power's about to run out. So I found the cable just in the other room there. So hopefully I won't get cut off. Right, okay, so yeah, so just coming back to those periods, it's all about period or sort of calendar monthly aging. So it's up to you which you prefer for that. Right, we're going to start looking at the reports themselves in a bit more detail. Out of breath now. You probably, hopefully that's not coming across too badly, that one. Right. Okay, let's just pop back to the slides and we'll start picking up on the reports themselves. Right, there we go. So with the age debtors, and we'll run through these in detail and try and give you some examples of what might catch you out as well. So when you run an age debtors, it will give you an idea of what was outstanding now, but also if you're running it retrospectively. So let's say we're on the 10th of August now. So let's say you're going back and you're wanting to see like what was outstanding as at the end of July. I need that list just so it will correlate to things like your trial balance and your balance sheet. So it's a common thing to do when you're running the report. You tick the box to exclude later payments, and it will give you a retrospective balance. What was outstanding at the point that you run the report up to? That's a key benefit of the age debtors report. So we'll run through it and give you an example of the kind of things to watch out for when you run these reports. So I'll quickly share my screen again. We'll get stuck into some demonstrations. Now, I'm just going to pick on this one for a moment. So this A1 customer. Now, if I run this, and we'll just run the age debtors contacts. Let's just preview it. I'll do it as today's date. And what we've got on this report is we've got a balance in period 3. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay that off, but I'm going to pay it as at today's date. So I'll quickly enter a customer receipts against that first customer. I'll obviously just, as I say, I'm just going to leave it as today's date, and I'll put the full value in there. So I'm going to pay it off in full, save it. And you can see straight away on this account here, there's nothing outstanding on that account. It's got a 0 balance. If we go into the reports though, and I'll flag this one as a favorite as well, so I can easily find it next time. If I run this report now, and I set the date back, so we're going to run it to the end of July, and just okay that. And what we get is, just based around that one customer, it tells me the report could not be generated. It hasn't found anything that's outstanding for that report. So we run that to the end of July. We've got one invoice, which is from a few months back, and we've got one receipt, which we've dated today. Now, when I've run that report and I've specified the end of July, what it's looking for is, right, is there anything end of July or prior that's still outstanding as at now? And it hasn't found anything. And this is where that little checkbox comes in. So if you run this report again, and this time I want to exclude later payments. So I still want to run it to the end of July. So I want to find out what was outstanding at this point in time. So this is where you need to tick this box. I always think this should just be ticked by default, this one. And then if you don't want it, you take it out. But it creates that many more queries, the fact that people forget to tick it. So if you're running month ends or year ends or anything like that, remember to tick this box, exclude later payments. It will give you a list of what was outstanding at the time. So by doing that, you can see this time it doesn't come up with that error. It comes up with, in this case, the balance, and it's telling me, right, as at the end of July, this is what was outstanding at the time. So that's the most important part. Make sure you specify the right date, but also tick that box. Other ones to watch out for. So you might find when you're running the likes of your report, that just run it for all of them this time. And I'll set that date back again. And I'll exclude later payments. But you might find you in this position. So actually you might be looking down and think, well, actually, why have I got this customer here? There's nothing outstanding on that account at all. It's just zeros all the way across. Why is it there? This account wasn't included earlier when it had zeros, so why is this one here? I've got another one. This one's a bit more obvious, this one, this F6 customer. So you can see in period 1, we've got £100 outstanding. And in the current period, we've got minus £100. So the D4 customer and the F6 customer. So if we just have a look at those, it's just a case of really tidying up the accounts. And it'll become apparent when we look at this one. We just go into the customer receipt window. What that does is gives us a list of what's outstanding. That's a good way of checking this account. And in this instance, what we've got is we've got a sales invoice and a sales credit. So it didn't find anything, or it showed zeros all the way across. Because actually, we've got an invoice that's outstanding, we've got a credit note outstanding, we haven't matched them yet, we haven't allocated them, but they fall in the same period. And so you've got a positive 100 and negative 100 in the same period. You've got transactions outstanding, and therefore it includes it on the report. To tidy that one up, ideally what you'd want to do is match them. So allocate them together. So just to tidy things up. Now if I do that, I just rerun the report. That's the D4D customer. Again, I will set the date back, exclude the payments, and you'll find this time, if I zoom in, you can see that D4D customer, it's not there anymore. Now that will be probably the same as this F6 customer. We've probably got a credit note in the current period and an invoice in period 1. Again, it's just a case of tidying those up. Now, if you did attend the allocate, unallocate session next week, this is what we're sort of building on. So if we just go and have a look at that F6 customer, you can see it's got a 0 balance. And again, if we go into customer receipts, and as suspected, we've got an SC transaction £100, SI transaction £100, both outstanding. They haven't been matched yet. So it's just a case of allocating them. So we'll do pay in full and pay in full. Save that. And you can see on this system now, on this account, there's nothing outstanding. So it's just zeros all the way across. So it's quite common quite a common query for our support team. It's a regular query, this one. I've run my aged debtors. I've got some 0 balance accounts. Why are they being included? Just a case of tidying the account. I've done a statement run. Now, depending on your type of statement, probably the most common type of customer statement layout that you do is outstanding transactions only. If those transactions aren't matched together, they aren't allocated, they're going to be classed as being outstanding. And therefore, because you've got outstanding transactions, it would generate a statement for them if you're running that specific type of layout. So again, just a case of tidying things up. And of course, if anyone did attend things like the clear audit trail session where you were trying to remove old records, you might be in a similar position. You can't delete a customer or you can't clear transactions from the audit trail if they're outstanding. Similarly, you can't flag a customer as being inactive if they've got outstanding transactions. They might have a 0 balance, but they must also have no outstanding transactions. So it feeds through into other areas as well. Now, when you are running your likes of your aged debtors reports, one thing I would say, particularly if you're going back to things like a year-end date, just get it to switch back to my standard view. There we go. Things to watch out for, particularly if you're trying to run your aged debtors and you're thinking, well, I need to know what was outstanding as at the year end. Make sure you've got no filter applied. So make sure at the top here it says all records. This one has had an outstanding balance as at the end of July, for instance. Doesn't now, but it did at the end of July. Now, if I did something like a filter, and I'll just do a quick filter, and I'll do where balance, I'll do is not equal to 0. Just apply that. You can see that A1 customer, it disappears. It's got a 0 balance. Now, if I was to run my aged debtors report based on my customer list, it wouldn't include that A1 customer because it's not listed. So make sure you've got no filter applied if you're trying to run your reports retrospectively. So if I was to run the aged debtors as at the end of July, for instance, it wouldn't find that A1 customer because that A1 customer is filtered from my list. So ideally, if you're running your reports retrospectively for things like you're looking back at year end or a month end or any period for that matter, make sure you've got your no filter applied. So you can either switch it off, or you can go into filter and you can just clear the form, then apply that, click close. They're all listed. Should say all records at the top. Make sure include inactive is switched on as well, just in case you might have an other accounts which are flagged as inactive. You've got them filtered, but maybe they had a balance at the time. So it's always a good little bit of advice that we got loads of queries on that one. My age debtors does not agree with my my trial balance as at my year end date. Why is that? So things like you've got accounts filtered from your list, and also maybe you've got some flagged as being inactive and they're just hidden. So make sure you've got no filter applied. Make sure this is ticked to include your inactive. Run your reports. Remember to tick that box and obviously specify the right date, and hopefully everything will agree at that point. So again, those are all very common queries there. I just pop back to the slides. I've actually got them on my slide there. If anyone's watching the time, apologies for the slight overrun. So those two common questions: why do customers with a zero balance appear on the reports? We mentioned just in case of tidying things up. Normally, if you've got any zero balance, have a look at that customer, get into the customer receipt window. Does it list anything? If it does, it means you've got outstanding transactions. Again, why are total debtors different to maybe your debtors control, your trial balance, your balance sheet? We've actually run a session in the past for that one, looking at reconciling age debtors. But again, make sure you tick the box, make sure you've got no filters applied, make sure inactive records are displayed. Those are the key things to watch out for when you run those. Now, if anyone's got any final questions, if you want to quickly pop them in there now, there is that handout. If anyone wants a copy of that, do download it while you're on the session. As normal, session has been recorded. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to get the link to the recording. That will be on the follow-up email, along with those upcoming webinars and a link to our recordings page as well. So do check those out if you get a chance. Loads of webinars on the go at the moment, so that the link to our webinars page, I think the link on the email will take you direct to the live webinar page. So as I mentioned, as of last night, our September timetable has gone live. So do check that out, concentrating on the nominal area. Loads of sessions on that, including things like year-end and management reports are in there as well. Also a few sessions on manual journals. So things like posting salary journals into your accounts and handling prepayments and accruals and previous year adjustments. So things that we don't touch on that often. So we will be looking at those in detail, but from a manual journal perspective. If you are interested, do check that list out and get yourself signed up. Remember, if you can't attend, you'll just be sent, if you do register, you'll be sent the link to the recording afterwards. Right, don't have any outstanding questions at the moment. I'll just give that another minute to see if any do come through. But many thanks for coming along this morning. Do let me know you've got the opportunity on the survey. Any thoughts on Monday mornings? Let me know what you thought of that one. If it's a bit more difficult, or any other times, when is it best to attend? When's it a bit more convenient? So any thoughts on that, let me know. You can always drop me an email as well if you want to reply to any of the webinar emails. But do take that opportunity to complete the survey. It should take you about a minute max. It should just pop up as you leave the webinar there, and watch out for your follow-up email. That will be with you in round about an hour's time. Right, we'll end the webinar just at that point. There aren't any outstanding questions. So if you do think of anything, as soon as you leave, you thought, what about this? Get in touch. Just reply to any of the webinar emails. That will get to me or a member of my team, and we'll drop an answer back to you. If you need to speak to someone, get in touch with our support team in the usual way. But otherwise, many thanks, and hopefully I'll see you on some other webinars very soon.